Hey, expats and travelers. I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere, and we are in Portugal, and it is winter in Portugal, so we are going to be talking about that today. Now, you might wonder where Josh is. Today, he's not going to be on this live. He is going to be manning the back end of things, so all the little fun things that pop up, that will be him. And in a second, we're going to reveal our special guest that we have, who is also going to be talking about the winter with me, because she has a lot of experience. For those of you who don't know, Josh and I have been living in Portugal since October of 2020, and we are with our baby girl who will turn 2 years old in January, and then our Yorkie, who is an old, grumpy 11-year-old crotchety kind of dog. But anyway, so this will be our second winter. We're in a different place than we were last year, so we have a little bit of a different experience. The weather is already different in Porto, so we'll be talking about that, and then along with our special guest who has been all over Portugal, and she'll be talking about winter. So we'll do that. We'll answer your questions, and we'll have fun for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. I always say an hour, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and see who our special guest is. Hello, can you go ahead and, oh, it's so frigid there. Are you sitting outside?
Hi, Kalie, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. How are you? Yeah. Okay. So Louisa, you are a frequent person on our channel, but for those of you who have never seen Louisa, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, hi, I'm Louisa Tannemanson, and I've been living in Portugal for since September 2017. It's my 5th winter here, and I work remotely. My husband, you may know, but I won't say anything about him because I don't want to. It's not about him, is it? It's about us.
No, of
Ladies
course, of
talking
course.
about winter.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've moved all over, and I just wanted to share a few tips to staying positive during this winter season.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome because you have a lot of experience being in different locations, different types of houses. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And we just want to let
And
our
also,
viewers, oh, go ahead.
and also keeping warm with a family, because like you were saying, you've got your lovely little Thea and your dog, your crotchety old dog, and
Yeah.
we've got 3 small ones, and we've got 2 dogs, one a bit crotchety and one mental. Yeah, there's lots of things to consider, aren't there? So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. So, for those of you who maybe don't know Louisa much, we are having her on for a bunch of different reasons, but one of the best things is the video that I did with her talking about life in Portugal just recently hit over 200,000 views, thanks to you guys. So we were super excited about that. And then our channel also just recently hit over 40,000 subscribers. So we just want to say thank you to all of our subscribers and our viewers, and keep giving us feedback on what you guys think about videos and what you guys want to see us do. So, okay, let's chat about winter. So obviously it's not that cold in your house, right?
Not, and I've just had a lovely warm bath, so I feel really warm and relaxed. But I've got all of my things here. I've got a scarf, got fingerless gloves, if you can see them.
Uh-huh.
I have a water bottle. I also have a spare duvet, and I've got another one by my feet, and I've got a hat as well. So, and also a heater.
Oh, well.
So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty toasty. Yeah.
That's good. So it sounds like a bath is a good little tip to be warm. Maybe taking a nice warm bath before getting in bed, or
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was talking to a friend today who is from Scandinavia, and in fact, I was talking to him last week, and in conversation, I was saying, "So, how cold does it get in Scandinavia?" And he said, "Well, sometimes the difference between here in Portugal and where I'm from, is like 20 degrees." He's talking like minus 30 degrees sometimes in the height of winter. And so I did ask him, some of his advice, but largely, I think a lot of it's attitude, because all of us, if you think about Portugal and what it's like during the summer, it's really colourful, isn't it? And it's bright, it's sunny, and it just feels, I think the brightness of the colours just makes you feel kind of warm and relaxed. And all of a sudden it goes grey. And I think it's important that not only do you keep warm, but you also keep positive, because it is that time of year when it starts to get a bit dreary. And if you've moved away from the dreariness, which I know expats in the UK have, they've moved away from the grey, where it tends to be grey for about sometimes 7 months of the year. So it's important to keep very positive.
Yes,
So
that's very true. And so that makes me think of two things. I think when we talk about the winter in Portugal, we have to keep it in perspective that it gets cold here, of course,
yes,
but
yes.
it does not get as cold as a lot of other countries. So
No,
what I might, being from Florida, think is cold, someone being from Canada or a Scandinavian country will come here and be
yeah,
like, it's not cold at all. It just cooled down
yeah,
a little bit. So I think it's relative depending on what you're used to and what you're looking for. So I think that's one thing. Think about like when we
definitely.
talk about the winter and it being cold, when you're outside, that's one
Mm.
thing. And the other thing, what was the other thing? I was thinking the relative being cold, and I can't even remember what the other point was that I was going to make. Um,
Maybe you were going to talk about the houses and how they're built, because
yes.
it's slightly different. Because obviously in Canada and Scandinavia, and also in England, our houses are built for the cold.
Hmm.
And here, I think they're built to keep the warmth out because it's mostly hot here.
That's
And so
true.
they're
Oh, that's
built.
what I was going to say. Yeah, that was the second thing. Is everyone thinks of Portugal and they think of like just sunny, amazing Portugal, and you do have that, and you do have those seasons, but they don't think that there is a winter time when it does get cloudy and it might get rainy and gloomy in a sense. So, like you were saying, the attitude is a big thing, but the houses, that's a really good point. So let's chat a little bit about housing because you have experience in all different types of houses. So explain
Yeah,
where you stayed, and I'll talk about like where we've stayed as well because we've been in a few different
yeah.
places. But so tell us about the different housing styles that you've lived in.
Wow. Well, we've lived in quite a few in those 4 years. So we started off early on in our journey. We were renting a place in San Martino, where we're actually living now, and it was a holiday let, and it was a basement flat, and basically the owner of it, she gave gas bottles, she had gas bottles which we could buy from her to run her radiators. But then when it hit about the 30th of November, she said, I'm sorry, it's too expensive for me to even buy the gas bottles now. So even if we'd wanted to pay, we just couldn't. The type of heating that she had it would have cost us a couple of hundred a week. I think it's going to be mega expensive. She had a solution, which was like radiators run off a gas heater or a gas. I don't know how she had it configured, but I mean, it was really juicy. It was going through a gas bottle, really fast.
Hmm.
And it was just a mega amount of money. And we moved out of there very, very quickly. I mean, when we were, it was really damp. It was early on my journey before we'd had a chance to really get a great place. And it was really, really damp. All the bedding was damp as we went to bed. There was no dehumidifier. Um, just it was just so, like, our bones were cold the whole time. We just had to
Yeah.
have hot water. I mean, all that happens is when you get really cold, you just end up staying in bed and watching a
Mm.
movie and tucking up and snuggling. That's all we could do until we could find another place. And then our next place was this luxury condo south of Lisbon, which cost us a pretty penny, but it was worth it. It had underfloor heating, but it was a new build, and so it had eco underfloor heating, and that cost next to nothing to run, and it was really, really hot. Again, it was a basement, and it is designed to keep the heat out. I mean, it was pretty dark during the day. You didn't get much direct sunlight because it's so hot in Lisbon, but it kept beautifully warm,
Hmm.
and it was a luxury. And then we've house sat in central Portugal with a back boiler, where the fireplace is somehow connected with a boiler, and then it services the radiators, and that was good, but very labor intensive. But it was also a really big house.
Hmm.
Then we've lived in an old hotel that needed renovating, that had no hot water or heating.
Oh
That
my gosh.
Yeah, we had a 3-month-old baby at that point.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, thankfully, we went through those 7 months without hot water. We went through it during the summer months, and we had hot water by the time the winter came along. But when it's that cold, if you've got a metal bath, it just sucks all of the heat out of any warmth that you might get. I find the flooring is the biggest thing. Wherever
Hmm.
you go, you need to bear in mind the flooring and also the level of damp. So in the last 2 years, we've had dehumidifiers wherever we've gone, and just the act of sucking out the damp in the air it automatically seems to make everything feel warmer because it's drier.
No,
We also,
absolutely.
first thing in the morning, no matter how cold it is, we'll open all the windows, and I just get like a through draft all over the house or apartment, and then later on heat it up. If the sun starts shining in the winter, I'll shut all my windows just so I can capture the heat in.
Mm-hmm.
But our best ones have been with the fire. When we had a fireplace, that was just really amazing.
Yeah, I think the dehumidifiers, I think a lot of people who are on here that live in Portugal will probably be like, yes, 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 that's definitely what you need so that you don't get those damp, bed sheets and stuff. So real quick, I just want to say, Dino, Boas Festas to you too. Christmas stocking gift for Sia. Thank you. And Josh has put up the
So
little, pastel for Sia. So she's going to have a good little time. And then, hi guys, just heard, about Superbox Stout. Has Josh ever tried it? Yes, yes. Yeah, and actually right now Superbox, they have their like seasonal brews as well. There was one for like the October time. They had like an Oktoberfest type brew, and then a Christmas one. Have you tried those? Any of those, Louisa?
I haven't. I know Carl has though, and he would
Yeah.
absolutely, he would put his thumbs up for those for sure.
Yeah, they're good. I think all of them are good, but for us, like Josh and I were chatting, that just the normal Super Bock is our favorite still. Like, just it's refreshing. You pop it in the freezer just a little bit before you're going to drink it, and it's just so good. But they do come out with some fun ones. And then, how does Lisbon winter climate compare to Porto? So that's a good question that we've just had, because Josh and I have been up in Porto, and Louisa, you are down more in Central and in Lisbon. So comparatively speaking, I will say this: a couple weeks ago, someone wrote us, a viewer of ours wrote and asked, like, she said, okay, this is the temperature in my apartment currently right now. And I think it was like 64, and she's down near Lisbon. She said that she had to start running her heat. And at that time, it was still, I think, end of November. And Josh and I hadn't needed to put our heat on at all yet, because we have a south facing apartment and we have big windows. And so when it's sunny, it's fine. We actually don't need our heat. So if it's a sunny day, we can go the whole day without using our heat. But because the sun comes in and it warms it really well. And we have a small place and it's not super closed off in areas. If you have a bigger place that's longer, that's closed off, you'll have a hard time having the sun being able to heat the different places. But our place is really good. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. She's actually down in Lisbon, which is, warmer, but she has to run her heat, as opposed to us in Portugal who have not had to do it yet. Now we have since, because it's gotten a little gloomier and there's been that tropical depression, that came through. So it's been quite rainy, right now. So we've been running the heat a little more. But I would say, so that's one thing that really made me think, okay, of course, it does stay warmer in Lisbon or further south in the Algarve compared to Porto or Braga up in the north. But the type of apartment or housing you're in is so important to what that looks like, as far as the humidity goes, or as far as needing heating, or how long you need heating and things like that. So what's your experience? You were talking about something like with the windows and stuff. What would you say, from where you've stayed or what you know from friends, and what is the best type of apartment that you would say is to get for heat?
I don't know. I mean, we've just moved into a house a few months ago that is just over 20 years old. And it's a big house, but it's got really sort of like heavy doors in between all the rooms. And we've noticed that we've been a lot warmer in here. So it's built, it's obviously got more insulation. It's really, we've only put heating on in the last couple of weeks, and not for very long, maybe for an hour in the evening. And just, if we're all sitting in one room and just feeling a little bit nippy, we won't have it on. Now, if I compare it to where we were last year, which we were in a really small flat, but in an old house that was like from the 1940s, or possibly even before then, a proper Portuguese quinta. Like, if I touch this wall next to me, which is an outside wall, it doesn't really feel that cold. It just feels slightly cooler to the touch. But where I used to be, if I touched the walls, it would feel like it was refrigerated. It would feel damp and it would feel really, really cold. So there's definitely, I've noticed that this newer build is definitely warmer. And we've got some friends living in Aveiro, and they're in a sort of like 20-year-old house, maybe tops, and they are able to keep it quite warm. Again, it's a really big house. So, we were really surprised at how cold we were in a top top floor flat. We were expecting to benefit from everyone else's heat, and we were really made up when we moved into this top floor flat, saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a really warm winter,"
Uh-huh.
and it was actually
Yeah.
a lot colder than we were expecting.
Yeah,
But
because the building is so important. And I think it's like around 2005. So anything that's built after 2005, the insulation and the heat efficiency, those ratings are better because I think they had different laws that they had to do. So I think if you're looking for anything like, after 2005, it like the place that you were saying,
yeah,
is probably better insulated. They know how to do that a little
yeah.
better, right?
I mean, I
Oh,
think
real
ours was
quick, sorry, the long road home. Thank you so much for that super
oh.
sticker. Um, but also as well, Louisa, did you see Josh popped up? Well, this is from Expats Everywhere, but Josh pop up the thing from Expats Portugal again. Who is this saying "Hola, boa noite"? Let me tell you, in any weather, this woman is hot. Who is that?
That would have to be my husband. Thank you, Carl from Expats Portugal. Bless you.
Oh, cute.
Yeah,
Supporting you.
it's nice for him, I think, to see me on, and I see him online all the time, so it's
Oh,
lovely.
yeah.
Before I forget, I really want to say at this time of year as well, one thing that I often notice is it's actually warmer outside the house. So even though we're in a very insulated house, even if if we haven't got the heating on, and it's quite comfortable for us to walk around, we will have a few more layers on than usual. But the moment we step outside, it's warmer, because Carl and I often have a little sort of tea break in between appointments and stuff, and we'll sit outside and have a little chat. And we're always noticing it's warmer. And I think, like, we went to a restaurant today and met up with some other expats. There's loads of people arriving. Have you found that at the moment, Kalie?
Yes,
There's
a
so many
lot.
people arriving. And so we do our weekly thing. And if there's new people in the area, we'll say, come and meet us for a coffee. And that's what we do on our Saturday mornings. And so we were sat out today, and there was this restaurant, and it was busy, but most people were sitting outside. And the sun wasn't out, but they were preferring to sit outside. So, I think part of the culture is everyone's wrapped up, but preferring to be in the fresh air.
Yeah, definitely. Well, because sometimes even in the restaurants, they don't necessarily, depending on what kind of restaurant it is, they're not pumping heat or anything. So it will be sometimes feel more comfortable outside compared to inside. And like you're saying, even in a house, like we were chatting with someone the other day who was making a joke that sometimes they're in their house and they're bundled up and they see their breath and they go outside and it's not even that cold, but it's like it's weird. It's like it locks it in or something on you. So it's like, how is it colder in here than it is out there? But that definitely happens. That happens up in Porto. I think it's all over Portugal. And I want to say that I saw Trav, I think, had like a super sticker that Josh popped up a little. Woo, thank you for that. And you did mention, we have another question that Josh is like behind pointing, like, answer this question. Any thoughts about including utilities, including heat in the rental contract versus paying yourself? What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Well, we had that agreement last year in the place that we were renting, and one day our landlady turned up in tears, and she said, all of a sudden my electricity bill has gone up. And like, we were living in a house with 5 other like families, and it turns out that the lower part of the building, they were actually not using the heat as much. And like, Carl and I are in all day, we are working from home, we've got the kids at home, and we homeschool, and with the lockdown, and we didn't have to go out or anything, so we were just in a lot. So it was obviously coming from us. And so yes, we had a really good deal, but we weren't going to take the mickey out of our landlady. We didn't realize how much it would have ratcheted up the cost. And a lot of that depends on the level of electricity that the house has got, because a lot of rental apartments or Airbnbs, like, anyone that's watching this, and I think I mentioned it in our first show together, but I'll say it again, like, and I bet you and Josh have experienced this in an Airbnb. You've put your oven on, you've got your washing machine on, you've got a heater on, and all of a sudden everything trips out.
It's too much. It's too much. Yeah.
And that's because, like, most rental, most rental places, they've got their electricity signed up for, that it cuts out at a certain, when you're using it this much, it cuts out, and you can pay for higher bands, you know, so like our landlady was obviously paying more for her electricity. It wasn't tripping out all the time. And so, of course, because we come from England and our power bills seem to be much cheaper, we didn't realize how much we were consuming. We were just trying to keep warm. And so obviously we paid a lot of that bill.
Yeah. So I
It's
will say too, we've seen like with contracts, people have shown us different types of like property management companies will say you can have, here is your contract without any utilities, here it is with certain utilities and everything. But I would say if you feel like you're going to use a lot, whether that's AC or heat, it could end up adding up. But you do need to read the fine print to that, because sometimes they'll say like, okay, your heat is included up to a certain amount, or your utilities are included up to a certain amount. And that's kind of the fine print. And you think, oh, that's a lot. But then you hit the winter time and you realize, well, I am spending more on utilities because I'm running heat, or this radiator is just sucking electricity. So it is a good idea for that question that had popped up. If you want to have it added as part of your contract, that's something you can negotiate, but make sure you see if there is a maximum that you can use, and then you have to pay the difference, kind of like what you did pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rent's not that much in Portugal anyway.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Next question, I think. Oh, go ahead. Say that again.
That lady was so gorgeous as well. I mean, we loved her. We still love her. She's a great woman. So
that's good. So this question is for you. Do you know how your house is insulated?
I really don't. If Carl, are you watching? Do you know? If so, pop it in the comments.
Yeah, right.
But if not, I'll find out and I'll put it in the comments after.
Okay, so this is another good question. There's all different types of heating that you can have here in Portugal. So let's chat about, so the ones that I know is, the central AC and heating, which is super common in the States, like practically every place has that, is not as common here. Some of the newer builds or the very high-end places will have that. But generally you have like the built-in units up high that, you turn on with the remote and it kind of, flaps, and that's AC and heat, or you have built-in heater, kind of sometimes heater or cool air that's inside. And then you have the others where you can actually plug them out of the wall and roll them to different places. So those are the main ones that I know. Is there anything else that you've used?
We've got friends who've got wood pellet burners. They appear to be really, really economical. And I've spoken to quite a few people that have got wood pellet burners. I think if you've bought your house and you're going to stay, investing in something like that is really worthwhile. And a lot of the expats houses that we've been to, they've all put radiators in, but I don't think radiators are standard in Portugal. I've not seen many houses that have radiators. When we moved to this house, every our house is insulated with love and hope.
Okay. Wow. How lovely.
How we roll. So when we arrived, we've got these tiny little wall-mounted heaters that look like little radiators, and we just plug them in and we like turn them on and we can adjust the dial. And they're pretty good. We have the door shut and it works well. I mean, we've also got one of those like portable ones. So we've got an oil-filled radiator that we can plug in. We've got that in the office because it doesn't make a noise. So obviously have a fan, and that's really handy. And we've got a fan one that we roll in and out and around in our bedroom if we need it. We've also got a couple of wall-mounted portable kind of fan ones that we put in our bathroom, literally just so we can put it on for 10 minutes when we're having a shower. I mean, that might
so
be
you're not freezing right after. Yeah. We found that when we were staying at one place that it was more of the Portuguese style, so it was very closed off, like a long house, very closed off with all the doors, so the sun didn't get into the middle area much. So we had the portable radiators that you just could roll, and some of those ones that were kind of old, they just sucked electricity, so they weren't even very good at like because it got hot. Some of them like will blow the heat, and I think those are a little better because they get hot and then they blow hot air, so that seems to warm the room better. But the ones that just get hot, like, so if you touch it, it's like, ow, or if you want to, like dry something on there, but it's like they don't work very well and they just suck. The energy bill is always higher, right? Your utilities are higher. So I don't know. Those didn't seem to be the best, but I think the ones that are mounted on the wall that do like the AC and air that you have the remote. Those seem to be pretty good. Where we stayed, one of the places we stayed had that, and I thought those are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, when I first arrived, I was always amazed at that there was all these like outside units, like these big square metal boxes with what looked like a fan on the outside of houses. And I always thought, what the hell is that? What is that? Because we just
Yeah.
don't have them in England. And then, when you stay in a building and you realize you've got one of those AC units with, like you say, they kind of flap out when you put them on as they push the wind out. And you can adapt it in the summer and in the winter according to whether you want it hot, cold. And of course, they've got their venting outside, which is what you see. Well, one of my friends, Mike, who has really investigated it because he was thinking about it for his own house. He was looking into the cost. I mean, he's an architect, so he looks at all the sort of cost benefit analysis and stuff like that. And he was saying that, in his opinion, those wall mounted AC units are really, really good value for money, but they're really expensive to install.
Because you have to like have the it go outside, right? To get rid of whatever I'm on, the technical terms, that stuff.
As you can tell, I'm not technical either. But I do listen to, I do hear, what people share with me. And so he said it's really expensive to install and it's obviously kind of permanent, or you have to, make good. But like when you've got them up and running, they're really cheap to run. I think there's something really nice about the fire. Or a stove, so like we were like putting soup on top of our stove, so we're lighting our fire last year and sitting around and heating up our stuff, and it's nice. It's a nice feeling. You feel a bit more sort of connected. It feels somehow slightly more ancient. I mean, if we were going to build our own house, which one day maybe, who knows, we will do, I'm really taken by the idea of taking the heat from the ground. So like your front garden would be dug up to quite a depth, and you lay loads of I think like tubing to collect the heat. It's like a heat exchange unit, I think. And there's probably people listening going, what the hell is she on about?
Yeah, what is that?
It's harnessing the energy from underneath the warmth from under the ground and putting it into your house, like blowing into your house. And it's like a heat exchange. So you can use it to cool and also to heat. And it basically uses about the same amount of electricity as a fridge does.
Wow.
But again, if you do something like that, it's a really big expense. I mean, that's why I guess not many people do that.
Right. It's one of those upfront costs, but then depending on how long you have it,
there you go.
Pays for itself.
She's talking about
geothermal
cooling.
There we go. See, that's why we have you guys on here, so you can tell us what these technical terms are, because we're just like tubes and everything. I do have to stop us right here. And Josh wants me to do this, to read this now. So a big shout out to Steph from Toaster. Thanks for watching. And I know this sounds kind of funny, but this is a friend you remember Amy and G, who traveled with us over the summer.
Yes.
This is one of Amy's friends, and Amy used to man the back end of these lives, and her friend would always be on saying, Amy, like, say hi, or, put your hand in there, or, she would put comments, and Amy never would, because she'd be like, stop it, So we said, no, like, tell us her name, and we'll give her a big shout out. So Steph, hope you're watching. If not live, then at least on the replay. And we just want to say hi. She's in Toaster.
Wow. When I saw that, I was thinking, how do you pronounce that town?
Okay.
In the UK, in England.
Yeah, it is in the UK. Yeah. Amy, thankfully, was like, she gave the name of the city, and she's like, it's pronounced. And she wrote out the word toaster, like the thing that you know, with bread. I was like, thank you for telling me that, because I never would have gotten that right.
I might have done something like Towcester or Towchester, because we've got a lot of Chesters and Cesters in England, and it's not always obvious.
Well, I did ask another friend the other night too. Yeah, I asked another friend the other night, like a British guy, how do you say this? And he didn't get it either. So,
yeah,
kind of funny. Then Amy and I were talking, and so this is another one that Amy said. Apparently, that is pronounced Cookno.
Oh, well, I've never even heard of that place.
These are not too far from London, like maybe a couple hours north of London or around that area. But yeah, she said it was like Cookno. So when she's like, this is how it's pronounced, COOK space NO, Cookno. And I was just like, that's weird.
Lots of really things in the English language for sure.
Yes, yes. All right, back to winter because we were talking about things like the insulation, the housing, the actual temperature, needing heat. So Gary's asked, I don't know Portugal construction practices, but it sounds like DPC damp proof courses are not present in older Portugal construction. Yeah, that's
I
definitely
absolutely agree with that. I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure, but like, in a way that I've never come across in the UK, like I've never come across internal walls when you touch an internal. I mean, this is an external wall that I'm touching, and it's just cool to the touch, but not really. But I've been in houses where the internal walls that look like they're structural walls, they are really cold and damp.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you think it has
there's
something to do with because they build with a lot of stone? Because like in the U.S. we do a lot of wood, and so when you do like the wood, then you can get those like that weird stuff that looks like cotton candy that's like insulated in between. So I think like the same with us in the U.S. Like you in internal walls, even external walls that's so insulated you can't feel what's going on outside. But here it's like maybe because everything's stone that even if you're like touching a wall, it feels that coolness that stone just soaks up. Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it's quite handy in the summer because, like, when I've stayed in these old big houses in the summer, it gets really, really hot. And so if I get overheated in the night, I'll actually move so I'm right by one of those walls, and I'll be naked, and I will press myself against the walls. And it just cools right down.
That's
I mean,
funny.
I'll tell you another tip that we do is we've got a couple of different weight duvets for different times of the year, but
Mhm.
also in summer we just put our duvets away and we just actually just sleep under the duvet covers with no duvet in. I mean, you really don't need anything.
Mhm.
I mean, it does get really, really hot.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. And another thing that you said that I thought was good too that I just want to highlight is even in the winter,
Yeah.
for the humidity sense, you want to still, even though it's cold outside, open the windows and get that draft going because that just helps kind of clear it out. And so that you would think, why would I do that? Because it's cold outside. But it's really important to do that to help with the humidity and the dampness that just happens in
Yeah.
homes, right?
Yeah, and also to freshen things up, because I mean, I've not been even in this newish house. There is a bit of mildew. I mean, we
Mm.
don't have much at all, but just in the last couple of months, and we're not. I don't think we sleep differently to anybody else. It must have happened to the last people and the people before. But there's a little bit of mold coming in the corner just above where our bed is. And I notice a little bit of black coming, a little bit of black mold in our ceiling. And we'll just get rid of it. We'll just, spray it with some neat vinegar, like white vinegar,
Right.
and it will disappear really quickly.
Mhm.
And you were talking about like the long, narrow corridors in these houses and things. If we don't have anyone using our bedrooms, we've got like built-in wardrobes. And I've noticed there's a lot of built-in wardrobes, which, when I came here, I was like, great storage. But actually, a lot of people just keep these doors shut the whole time. They don't get any air. And so if there's any damp in there, you're done for. So
Mhm.
I keep all those cupboard doors open. So they're always airing. And I just close them if people come. So if people are
Yeah.
coming around, or if we're going to bed and it doesn't look nice, I'll just close all the cupboards. But I think it's really good to get as much air circulation as you can.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
also,
Because there's any moisture in those, like if you have shoes and stuff in there that has just moisture in the bottom, like it will get mold in them. Like we know people that that's happened to.
I haven't had this in Portugal, but in one house in the UK, in a really notoriously damp town, which actually does remind me a little bit of Portugal. And I put some old like shoes in the bottom of my cupboard and they actually went moldy, and I was really shocked. I was like, we need to get out of here really quickly.
Yeah, it's pretty
Just
crazy.
throw them away.
Yeah. Okay, so Katie says, so as long as you have a south-facing apartment and a dehumidifier, you should be able to survive the winter without going bankrupt. Okay, so I will say this: we definitely think that having a south-facing apartment is super helpful, but obviously that's only if the sun is out. So when you get like maybe a week or something or days that just aren't very sunny, then it's not as easy to get the heat from the sun. But still having the south-facing for us is good, and then a dehumidifier, of course, is good. And you can get that in lots of different ways. I mean, some I've seen like actual fans, so you can have it as a fan that you know, like a mobile fan during the summer, and then it's like a dehumidifier during the winter. So there's that. You've got those little things that you just pop up and put in different places that help.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different dehumidifiers that you could do, which are good. But I wouldn't say that you're necessarily going to go bankrupt during the winter. You just kind of got to learn all the different tricks, especially for your own apartment or house that you're in. Because what you might do is going to be different than what someone else might do. So once you kind of learn those little tricks, you still, of course, will be paying a little more because of heat, but then it balances out when you get into like the spring and summer, or even like the winter, or excuse me, the summer. So like the spring and fall is cooler, but then summer, even though it's hotter, if you do those little things, like you don't need a big duvet, you don't necessarily need to be blasting the AC the whole time. So yes, your utilities might be a little more in the winter, but it balances out throughout the year because you're not having to pay as high of utilities during the summer, for example, right?
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with that. And I was trying to quantify it for some new arrivals from Utah today. So we were talking to these people, and in our worst year, when we were in this massive house, even though we weren't living in the whole house, we'd had lots of parts of it were kind of shut down, but it was a really old house and it hadn't been looked after, and we were kind of renovating it. But that year we were there, in I think December and January, our heating bill was as much as all the months put together. It was like like, yeah. Like the whole, it was just so expensive. It was unreal.
Yeah.
We paid £300 €300 for 1 month in this house, which is a lot. And like the rest, the moment the sun came out, it was something like €20 a month or something. It was like really so shocking to us. We just couldn't believe it because we hadn't provisioned that much money. And so now I'd like to say we're really careful when we put aside lots of money for the winter, but we don't really. But we're always aware of how much it's going to cost. So in the back of our head, we know that we are going to have to pay a bit more or a lot more.
And that's one thing. Just knowing is the best thing, right? You know what to expect in in a sense, like a little bit. Sometimes you don't know exactly how much it's going to be, but you do know it's going to be more because you're running heat.
Definitely. And like we are in our house all the time. We are real sort of like home birds. Something else I think it's worth sort of recognizing, like in the UK and probably in America, I mean, maybe not in Florida where it's really hot, but we tend to live in our whole house all year round in the UK. As we have our house set up, that's how it is. But what I've noticed about different Portuguese families, and when we've been living in the rural areas, is that they'll have these big houses that they kind of live in very freely during the summer, and then in the winter the tendency is that they shut themselves down and live in a kind of really big lounge, so they spend most of their time in one room, so they're not like heating the rest of the house.
The whole thing, yeah.
We're kind of like that because we've got a small family. Our kids always want to be in the same room as us, pretty much. We're not got to that grumpy sort of independent age. And so in the evening, sometimes we'll all be doing different things, but in our bedroom, like we've got a big bedroom and we'll all just be hanging out under duvets, reading, chatting, rather than being sit in a lounge or a dining room or whatever, so we kind of think a bit smaller and a bit more intimate, and we work
that helps.
close.
That helps save money, so you're not heating the whole house, right? Okay, let's see. Olivia is asking, is the housing similar to Spain? What's your experience with Spain?
I've only spent one night in Spain, like mainland Spain. I've had a couple of holidays to Lanzarote, Tenerife, and I really don't know. I mean, there I was, in the height of winter, in December, and it was really hot. So I really can't compare them, unfortunately. Sorry about that, Olivia.
Well, Josh and I used to live in Madrid, so we do have experience with that. And it gets cold in Madrid. It's the same kind of thing. I think the mentality is like, oh, Spain is always, sunny like Portugal is. But no, it definitely gets cold. And in the north of Spain, it snows and everything. And so I would say it is similar to like Spain and Portugal are similar. I don't know if the construction is necessarily like similar because I don't, like we were saying earlier, I don't know like technicality of stuff, but I do remember we like one place that I lived, it had like the radiator in the wall, and still being bundled up because it was like, this doesn't seem to be like working, heating my room very
Yeah.
well. So I would say that, yeah, it's probably housing wise is similar to Spain, but it's hard to say exactly because even all throughout Portugal, there's all different types of housing, right? I mean, we live in Porto in the city, and you've lived out in a house, a bit more rural, and there's everything in between.
Mm.
And Spain has the same. But I would say that, yeah, a lot of it is quite similar
Yeah.
from our experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, the other thing I've noticed is that obviously if you've got a house on the coast, it does get much cooler in the winter. And so if
Hmm.
you are inland, my experience is, if you haven't got that like howling wind, or one of the things we have on the Silver Coast in this area, sort of like Nazaré down to Foz, we get this like frozen fog that comes in off of the Atlantic, and it's
Hmm.
really crazy. Like when you see it, you're not expecting it, and all of a sudden, it's like cloud has come down your street. It's like
It's
bizarre.
weird. Yeah.
It's freezing. It chills you to your bone and it wets everything.
Mm.
But of course, if you're inland, you're not really going to get that so much.
Yeah. We don't really get that in Porto, I would say. I mean, we just get like the clouds and stuff, but not like this fog that's really cold like that. But
Mm.
okay, Middle Gear has asked, is there a demand for new homes that are passive and comfortable all year round in Portugal, something that doesn't require a lot of heating and cooling? I don't know if there's
I
a big demand. What do you think?
I think it'd be great to have houses like that because judging by all the people that we're seeing coming through, arriving in Portugal, most people have got the dream of doing that. That said, there are loads and loads of empty houses. This
Hmm.
this country is full of beautiful old houses that really need looking after. And unfortunately, in most cases, to get a really good house, people are buying them and knocking them down and then rebuilding them because it's actually cheaper to just start again, which is a real shame. I think if there was a way of renovating these houses to eliminate those problems, that would be amazing.
Hmm.
And I think there'd be a massive demand for it. But if there was a house like that, we would definitely be looking for it. I mean, that's like a dream come true from my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of expats would say that as well. Because,
Mm.
what we're used to in the US, UK is quite different than here. So you would think there is a demand, but there's not much going on that's meeting that demand at this point.
Yeah.
But I will say so, um, earlier you also mentioned this, and I'm going to mention it now. There are a lot of Americans who are quite interested in coming to Portugal now. And we
Yeah.
used to call it the hidden gem because no one in Europe or no one who was looking into Europe really thought of Portugal as a good place to live. They would go to maybe somewhere in the UK or Italy or France, but now
Mm.
Portugal is on people's radars. And that's because the
Yeah.
D7 visa is a very easy visa to get with the passive income that you move to Portugal on, and it kind of gives you access to all of Europe. So for those of you who are interested in that D7 visa, that's what Josh and I are on. And we put together a little DIY course that you can do it from America. So US citizens in America that has all sorts of recommendations on how to do stuff, where to do it. We have affiliate links in there to help you out and get you discounts on things. We give you a timeline so it's not super overwhelming. And we have all of that stuff in our D7 course. And for the month of December, for Christmas, New Year's, we are doing a promotion where you get $15 off if you use the code December. So if you want, we will put that, if it's not right now, after this live stream, we'll put the link in the description below. Josh is giving me the thumbs up from the other side of the room. So apparently it's already there. So if you go, there you go, link the description section, link in the description section. Below and use the code December to get $15 off of that DIY course for those of you who are looking to come here on the D7. So just wanted to throw that out there because you were mentioning that there are a lot of expats and Americans that are coming here. And I think that Portugal has been on the radar for Brits for a while, whether that's for vacation or for your stag party, right? But a lot of right, a lot of people though now from the US are coming here and finding that you can do it on the D7. So it's a really good visa that they have here for us.
Yeah,
Well, and
it's
now I
fantastic.
guess Brits actually need it as well because of Brexit. So that's the other thing is Brits too can come over on the D7.
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky to come over when we did,
Hmm.
before it all, changed, the divorce between the UK and in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
very lucky. There was something else I wanted to say, because I think,
Hmm.
like, if somebody's listening, they're going to think, "Oh my goodness, the winter! Oh, it's going to be horrible." I mean, I should say, our first Christmas here, we went walking through a park, and we weren't wearing coats. It was beautiful, and we just walked across the way to have Christmas dinner with our friends. We were sat on their porch. Lovely, beautiful. All of our other Christmas days that we've had here have been sunny. We've gone to the
Yeah,
beach. And it's been great. We've had a really lovely time. I mean, this time of year, I mean, I think January and February can get a bit dire. I think they're the worst months. They're the
they are.
coldest
Yeah.
months, really
Hmm.
rainy as well.
Hmm.
But actually, you never know what the weather's like. I mean, this week, yeah, we've had a couple of cold days, and it's been really, really raining. It's been hard to get my washing dry. But like, then we've had really warm days, or days that are slightly overcast, and we're thinking it's dry, let's go out with the kids. And we get out and we've got our coats on, we've got scarves and hats, and then all of a sudden the sun comes out, and the scarves, the hats, everything's off, and it's
Hmm.
beautiful. We're in like t-shirt kind of weather. I mean, we've been out, and it's been hot today. It's been fantastic. We're just walking along the beach today. Our youngest is just in a t-shirt.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, we definitely say, like, especially like up in Porto, you want to layer because if
yeah.
the sun's out, it's very warm, but sometimes the sun will go behind a cloud and it gets cool. So you want your coat on, but you're walking around. So normally you're hot. So definitely a place to layer. And yeah, I think with winter, you just have to learn what works. You can't have these expectations that it's going to be like what it was in your home country because they just do things differently here. So the housing is different here. The heating and the cooling, they are different here. So you just have to figure out what your apartment style is and what works for you and how much you want to spend or how that looks. And it's really not that bad, right?
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, it's fantastic. It's just you just don't expect it. Like when you're moving from these other places, you expect your house to be better insulated and also to not cost so much. Heating wise, you just have to change your expectations and roll with it. It's
Hmm.
worth doing, I would say. Oh, and there's one other thing that I really wanted to share, which I was just about to forget. We don't have shutters in the UK. Like hardly any houses have shutters, but use the shutters. They
Hmm.
are there to help you now. Like my first thing I do every morning is get the shutters up, open the windows, and let the air go crazy for about a good hour or two, and then shut everything down and start like trapping in the heat. But the moment it starts to, like, the sun starts to go down, or maybe even 20 minutes before, the shutters go down, keeping whatever heat we've got. it's
Hmm.
it's worth doing.
Yeah, that's
Makes
really good advice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I said we were going to go about 45 minutes, and I know Josh just had this scrolling along the bottom, but we are going to be at in less than 15 minutes. We are
Yeah,
heading, Josh
you
and I
can
are
get on
heading
our
over
show.
to you guys on Expats
Yeah.
Portugal. So for those of you who are
Actually, it's
watching,
on Feel Good Portugal, actually.
Feel Good Portugal. Okay,
I
so it's
think
on.
we're going to stream it to Expats Portugal, but it's Feel Good Portugal. So it doesn't officially go via the company that Carl works for. It's our own Saturday night thing. It's a place just for people to hang out. And the great thing is, I mean, like you guys, you've got people from all over the world joining you today. So we just have this kind of feel good Saturday night. It's almost like date night for us. But just with strangers from all over the world. So we
Nice,
hope
yeah.
you can talk to us about what it's like to be these international superstars. Because you know what? Here's the thing. You never know who's watching you, do you, when you do these shows? And every couple of Americans that we've seen over the last few weeks, they all know you guys. So
Oh,
everyone subscribed to us, they all are subscribed to you guys as well.
that's
They all know
awesome.
you.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not surprised you're at 40,000. And like, it's amazing that you got to like 200,000 views on that video. I mean, I didn't know about it. One of my clients that I think first came to you guys and then saw our show that we did together, and he's friends with us and he lives nearby. He just said to me, "Do you know that episode is almost at 200,000?" And I was absolutely so shocked. I couldn't believe it. More
yeah.
people know me as that whingy Brit that was talking about the colds than they do about my actual job. Every little bit of streaming that I've done over the last decade has been eclipsed by that little 40-minute segment. It's
Oh,
incredible.
that's funny. Well,
Nice
that's
and
why
sweet.
everyone should head over to Feel Good Portugal in about 10 minutes so that, here we are, for 45 minutes complaining about the winter and the weather. And then we finish up saying, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And then,
It's
hey, everyone
fantastic.
head over and we'll just, yeah, have a good time. Oh, and there's Josh making his debut. Has to get in on the live. And then I think, Josh, I saw you popped up something. I think someone was asking about the D7 course if we change it. I think maybe you answered that, but real quick, someone said, yeah, we D7 course be updated if there are any changes. Yes, we are constantly changing it because they are constantly changing it on us. So the course
Right.
is yours for life when you buy it, and then we change it as things change along the way. So I guess with that being said, we'll kind of shut down some things here because we've gone almost an hour. In 10 minutes, we'll be over with Carl and Louisa on their Feel Good Portugal channel. And for those of you who haven't yet, we would love for you to subscribe. Send us an email if you have questions about the D7 visa or moving to Portugal or anything that you have going on. We would love to hear from you. You can email me at info@expatseverywhere.com. I'd love to help. Also, another thing that we're starting in the new year, because a lot of you are asking for help, we are setting up a calendar for consultations so that you can do those through me, whether you're actually in Portugal and you want to do them in person, or we will do them, through the internet, the awesome internet that we can do this now. So we will have that going on for consultations as well. So feel free to email at any time, info@expatsEverywhere.com. And Louisa, thank you so much for joining us, talking about winter here. And thank you everybody else for being on here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Congratulations, you guys. You so deserve that. And thank you for everyone that's watched. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you. All right, everybody, let's get moving. Bye.